If you think Silicon Valley rivalries are just corporate noise, this one will change your mind. Elon Musk co-founded OpenAI, helped raise its first $1 billion, and built it from nothing. Now, he has returned with lawyers, billions, and a rival AI empire built for one purpose: to bring OpenAI down. A courtroom showdown is weeks away. Hundreds of billions are at stake, and the future of artificial intelligence hangs in the balance. This is not a dispute. This is all-out war. December 2015, a group of technologists gathered with a single stated purpose: build artificial intelligence that benefits all of humanity, not shareholders, not governments, not any one company. The organization would be a non-profit, no equity, no profit motive, just the mission. Elon Musk co-signed that promise alongside Sam Altman and a handful of others, and he backed it with real money. Court filings document his personal contributions at approximately $38 million, roughly 60% of OpenAI's early funding. The $1 billion pledge announced at launch. The headline number that made the world pay attention. Most of it never materialized. The early organization survived almost entirely on Musk's checks. He also provided something harder to quantify: credibility, access. The ability to recruit world-class talent that would otherwise have gone straight to Google or Meta. In 2015, OpenAI was a scrappy underdog, trying to compete with the most well-funded AI research operation on Earth. Google's DeepMind division had just been acquired for $500 million the year before. OpenAI had no product, no revenue, and no track record. Musk was the reason anyone in the industry took it seriously enough to walk through the door. He sat on the board. He made introductions. He spent years steering the organization toward what he genuinely believed was the most important work being done anywhere on the planet. He had publicly warned for years that unchecked artificial intelligence posed an existential risk to humanity. OpenAI was supposed to be his answer to that risk, a counterweight to the concentrated AI power accumulating inside Google, Meta, and Microsoft. Then, in February 2018, he was gone. The official reason was a potential conflict of interest with Tesla's own AI development for autonomous driving. The version that has since emerged from unsealed court documents is considerably messier. Musk had pushed to take control of OpenAI as chief executive. He believed the organization needed stronger, more decisive leadership to keep pace with Google's accelerating research output. The other co-founders refused. They put Altman in the role instead. Musk submitted his resignation from the board shortly after. Depending on which version you believe, he walked away or he was eased out. What happened next is the core of this lawsuit. In 2019, OpenAI created a for-profit subsidiary operating under a structure it called capped profit, where investor returns were limited to 100 times their investment. It was presented as a compromise, a way to raise the capital needed for frontier AI research while preserving the nonprofit's guiding mission. Microsoft saw the structure and wrote a check, then another, then another. Over subsequent years, Microsoft's total investment in OpenAI exceeded $13 billion, securing it exclusive cloud infrastructure rights and a deep commercial partnership that has since become one of the most valuable corporate arrangements in the technology industry. The models that followed, GPT-3 and GPT-4, went closed source, proprietary, the opposite of what the founding documents had explicitly promised. The nonprofit charter had committed to making OpenAI's technology freely and publicly available. Instead, those models became the commercial engine of a company that would eventually be valued at hundreds of billions of dollars. The research that Musk had funded, recruited for, and lent his name to had become a product, and the product was being sold. Musk's argument is straightforward. He donated to a charity. They turned it into a corporation. He alleges that Sam Altman and co-founder Greg Brockman always intended to pursue a for-profit model, that the non-profit framing was a calculated mechanism to attract donors and credibility in the early years, and never a genuine long-term commitment. He says he was assiduously manipulated. The lawsuit charges fraud, breach of charitable trust, and unjust enrichment. It names OpenAI, Sam Altman, Greg Brockman, and Microsoft as defendants. OpenAI's counter is equally direct. They say Musk is a disgruntled ex-partner who tried to take over the company, was rejected, and is now deploying litigation as a competitive weapon against an organization he can no longer control. Their legal filings describe the lawsuit as an ongoing pattern of harassment. They point out that Musk himself participated in conversations about for-profit structures before his departure. They argue he understood the commercial realities of building frontier AI at scale, that the mission was never going to survive without substantial sustained revenue, and they note pointedly that Musk has since launched his own for-profit AI company. Both positions have survived every attempt to kill this case before trial. In January 2026, United States District Judge Yvonne Gonzalez-Rogers said there was plenty of evidence that OpenAI's leadership made assurances to Musk they never honored. She refused to dismiss. Core claims, fraud, breach of charitable trust, and unjust enrichment survived and proceed to a jury in Oakland. The trial starts April 27th. This trial starts April 27th, and the verdict could change AI forever. If you want to stay ahead of what happens next, subscribe now and hit the bell. We're covering every development as it unfolds. Musk's damages. Expert economist C. Paul Wazan of Berkeley Research Group has assessed OpenAI's total liability at between $78 billion and $135 billion. The underlying theory is that Musk's early financial contributions and strategic work were foundational to building an organization now valued at $840 billion. If that foundation was laid through false promises, Wazan argues Musk is entitled to a portion of the gains those promises made possible. OpenAI calls the methodology legally invalid. Donors to a nonprofit do not hold ownership interests, they argue, and they cannot retroactively claim financial returns that were never part of any agreement. On March 13th, Judge Rogers heard pretrial arguments over whether Wazan will even be allowed to testify. If she bars him from the stand, Musk's damages case collapses before it starts. If she admits his testimony, OpenAI faces a potential judgment that would exceed 3 times the company's entire projected annual revenue. That ruling remains pending as of today. What no one in the press has fully explained is just how deliberately Musk has constructed his position outside the courtroom. This is not a man waiting for a verdict. Every legal filing has been accompanied by a parallel escalation that's in the AI arms race itself. He launched xAI in 2023 with a stated mission to create an artificial intelligence that he described as truth-seeking, a deliberate contrast to what he called the constrained outputs of ChatGPT. The Grok chatbot launched the same year, trained on real-time data flowing through X, the social platform Musk had acquired for $44 billion in 2022. Grok had something no other major AI model had: a live, continuous feed of human conversation, argument, and breaking news. That training advantage is structural. You cannot replicate it without owning the platform. In March 2025, Musk merged X into XI, bringing the social data pipeline and the AI engine under one roof before the SpaceX acquisition completed the picture the following year. Every legal move has been matched by a market move. The lawsuit is not a distraction from the competition. It is part of it. In May 2024, XAI raised $6 billion in a Series B funding round. Grok 3 launched in February 2025, posting benchmark results that placed it in direct competition with the best models OpenAI had publicly released. The gap that had once seemed insurmountable, OpenAI's multi-year head start, its exclusive Microsoft infrastructure, its research talent, had narrowed faster than almost anyone had predicted. Then came the BID. In February 2025, a consortium led by Musk submitted an unsolicited offer of $97.4 billion to acquire OpenAI outright. The offer was rejected immediately. Altman's public response was a single post, an offer to buy X, Musk's social media platform, for $9.74 billion. 1/10 of Musk's number, delivered with deliberate mockery. The exchange went global. Neither transaction came close to completion. But Musk's legal team seized on the moment. The fact that his consortium had valued OpenAI at $97 billion, and that OpenAI had since raised capital at valuations far exceeding that, became evidence submitted directly into the damages calculation. Musk, in effect, had established the floor of OpenAI's worth with his own offer. On February 2, 2026, Musk executed the deal that consolidated his empire into something unprecedented. SpaceX acquired XAI in an all-stock transaction, creating a combined entity valued at $1.25 trillion, the largest private merger in recorded history. SpaceX was valued at $1 trillion, XAI at $250 billion. Under one roof, reusable rockets, the Starlink satellite internet network covering most of the planet, the Grok AI platform, the X social media ecosystem, and ambitions to build orbital data centers that would take computing infrastructure off Earth entirely. A SpaceX initial public offering is expected later this year at a valuation approaching $1.5 trillion. What was once a collection of separate ventures is now a single vertically integrated machine. Then came the number that made the whole industry stop. On February 27, 2026, OpenAI announced it had closed a $110 billion funding round, the largest private capital raise in history, surpassing its own previous record, set just 11 months earlier. Amazon invested $50 billion. NVIDIA invested $30 billion. SoftBank invested $30 billion. The post-money valuation landed at $840 billion. To put that trajectory plainly, $157 billion in October 2024, $300 billion in March 2025, $840 billion in February 2026. A 530% increase in under 18 months. Musk's legal team drew an immediate line between those numbers and the Oakland courtroom. The damages they are seeking, up to $135 billion, would, if awarded, consume the vast majority of the capital OpenAI just raised. It would not necessarily end the company, but it would gut its infrastructure plans, destabilize investor confidence, and arrive at the single worst possible moment, the eve of what would otherwise be the most valuable initial public offering in the history of artificial intelligence. The global AI market is projected to reach $1.8 trillion by 2030. Two organizations are now positioned above all others to claim the dominant share of that market. On one side, OpenAI, valued at $840 billion, backed by Amazon, Nvidia, SoftBank, and Microsoft, with 900 million weekly users of ChatGPT and over 50 million paying subscribers. On the other, the SpaceX XI entity, valued at $1.25 trillion, with rockets, satellites, a live social data feed, orbital compute ambitions, and a founder who has now demonstrated across multiple industries that he will not stop until he wins. The jury in Oakland will not determine the future of artificial intelligence on its own, but it will set a precedent that reaches every AI company that comes after. If Musk wins a judgment in the tens of billions, it tells every future founder that a promise embedded in a founding document is a legally enforceable contract, that you cannot build an empire on a charitable mission and then quietly convert it into a corporation when the money gets serious. If OpenAI wins, it tells the industry that the law cannot reach the informal assurances that were made during the chaotic, optimistic early days of the AI boom. That founders can pivot, restructure, and monetize without being held accountable for what they said before the money arrived. That question, not the dollar figure, not the rivalry, is what makes this trial genuinely historic. In 2015, two men stood in the same room and agreed the most powerful technology in human history should belong to everyone. By 2026, one of them is worth more than the gross domestic product of most nations. The other is running the organization they built together, now valued at nearly $1 trillion, with $110 billion freshly raised and a product used by nearly 1 billion people every week. A jury of ordinary people is about to sit down, read their private emails, review their internal diaries, examine their late-night text messages, and decide which one of them actually told the truth. April 27th, Oakland, California. The most consequential tech trial in history begins. Two men who once shared a vision for the future of humanity will now let a jury decide who betrayed it. This trial starts April 27th, and the verdict could change AI forever. If you want to stay ahead of what happens next, subscribe now and hit the bell. We are covering every development as it unfolds. Drop your thoughts below. Who wins this war, Musk or Altman? We read every single comment.